Good afternoon, everybody. It is so wonderful to be back here at the Talmud Lunch and Learn and to see all of you wonderful people here. Thank you, Ed, again, our chef, for handling a very elaborate lunch here for all of our friends. They're picky eaters, and you get the right food for them every time. So thank you. I want to share with you a quick, amazing story that is related to us by the Talmud about Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair was a Tanaic sage who our sages want to give us an example of what honesty is, and they pick a story about Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair at how our sages are just so reliable, hopefully, and we should hopefully, those of us studying Torah should always be among those who are considered to be of the most honest and righteous. So I want to share with you the following story. Pinchas ben Yair was a rabbi in his little village, and there were two paupers who came around. They would go from town to town to collect some money. Now, Pinchas ben Yair's town was a very poor town. So people didn't really have much to give, but our Torah tells us that when someone asks, you give. Whatever it is, you give. You don't send someone away empty-handed. So all the people in the town gave a few kernels of kernels of barley, and by the time they were done with the whole town, they had 2 little bags of barley. So of barley kernels. Either way, so they came to Rav Pinchas ben Yair and they said, you know what, we weren't so successful in this town. We didn't really hit gold. So if you don't mind, can we leave our 2 bags here? We're going to go to another town. The next town, we don't want to schlep these 2 bags with us. Can we leave it by you? He says, sure, no problem. So they leave the 2 bags by Rav Pinchas ben Yair, and they go to the next town, and the next town didn't work out much better, and they go to the next town, it didn't work out either much better, 3rd town, 4th town, and then they totally forgot about these 2 bags. And comes a year later, comes a month later, comes a year later, and the bags are still there. And Rav Pinchas ben Yair is concerned that these 2 bags of barley are going to get ruined. Or either the mice are going to eat it. So he says, you know what I have to do? I just have to plant it. I have to use it to plant new barley. And he does that. He plows his field and plants the barley, and the barleys grow tremendous stock. And the next, he harvests it all and stores it. Eventually, he has to build a new storehouse just for these 2 men's barley, to store all that barley. And then the next year, the same thing happens. And the next year, 7 years later, these 2 paupers are again traveling through. Their fate hasn't been any better. They're traveling through, and one of them remembers, hey, you remember we brought these 2 bags of barley to Rav Pinchas ben Yair. Maybe we go back and ask for those 2 bags. We'll have, So they come back to Rav Pinchas ben Yair, and they said, we left you 2 bags. He says, yeah, I remember you. I remember your 2 bags. He says, come, let me show you what your 2 bags have produced. And he takes them to the storehouse, and they have this unbelievable treasure of barley stocked, and he says to them, this is yours. This is what your barley produced. And they took it. They took whatever barley they needed, and they sold the rest. And obviously, they didn't need to raise any more funds after that. But you think about Rav Pinchas ben Yair didn't ask them for rent, didn't ask them for payment, didn't ask them for everything. But our sages, it's one of the things that the Torah emphasizes, that honesty is not a luxury item; it's a necessity item. Honesty of our sages is not something that we can ever say. It's a nice thing to do every once in a while. This is something that is an obligation upon every one of us. This week's Parsha, we have Shoftim v'Shotrim. We should set up courts, and we should set up judges, and we should set up the police force. Why? So that there be honesty, and there shouldn't be any nonsense in games. Sadly, we see in our world a tremendous abuse of power, whether it's by politicians or by people of religious leadership, without mentioning religions or types of personalities. But we all know people abuse the power. Even the people who are of high stature need to be held accountable. Particularly our sages. And we see throughout the stories of the Torah and throughout the stories in our Talmud that the sages were held of utmost account for their actions or inactions. And hopefully we should all be able to live up to that standard of when we give our word, we live up to that word, and never ever be questioned on whether or not we are filling our quota of responsibility towards honesty. And honesty is something that can never be, that should never be compromised. And if someone even had that's why we have contracts. Why do we have contracts? So there shouldn't be any misunderstanding. Contract is not because I'm suspecting you of cheating. It's that way there's no mistake on what our understandings are. And, the Torah gives us this agreement of contract, whether it's by marriage, we have a ketubah. It's a contract so that everybody understands what their responsibilities are, right? And there shouldn't be any misunderstandings. We need to take extra measures to ensure that there isn't any mistake, that there isn't any misunderstanding, and that we are accountable to the things that we agree upon. So with that, my friends, thank you so much for joining us. Have a magnificent Shabbos. Please like, share, and comment on these videos so that we can share these words of Torah with our friends all across the globe. Thank you, and have a terrific Shabbos. You're all welcome here to our Talmud Lunch Learn every Friday at 12 o'clock, and to all of our other classes, you're welcome to visit torchweb.org. Thank you so much for joining us today.